Welcome to Happy Hour Live, episode 7. Today is Friday, May 1st. I know it's Friday because it's the only day of the week that I actually shave to do this. We got through April, everybody. It's our first calendar month of this sheltering in place. I know it's been 7 weeks, but now we are one calendar month in what's shaping up to be many. I hope everyone's staying safe. I know, everything's kind of unknown. It's kind of crazy right now. I'm a little bit off today. I did not sleep well at all last night. I woke up not once, but twice. I woke up at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. and my brain was just spinning, and it's anxiety. And thankfully, those of you who know me know I have a meditation practice that I've been doing for about 7 years now. And that is really the only thing that got me through it. That's why I'm not medicated or in the hospital right now. Because those were basically like 2 panic attacks in one night over what's happening right now. And also, today is my first day not drinking coffee. I have this weird thing. Anyone listening, please comment if you have this same thing, but I have to cycle through coffee. Like, at the beginning of the cycle, I have 1 cup of coffee. I feel awesome. I'm motivated. I'm alert. It releases endorphins. I actually feel joy when I'm drinking. It, gets things moving in the old plumbing, if you know what I mean. It feels good, and it's great for a couple weeks. Then I need 2 cups of coffee, and then I need 3 cups of coffee, and eventually I'm drinking like 5 to 7 cups of coffee a day. And after about a month of that, it has no effect. It actually starts to be detrimental to me. I feel foggy. I feel tired all the time. It gives me a sour stomach all day. I have difficulty sleeping, and that is my sign to take a break from coffee. And I take like 3 days off, maybe a week off, and that kind of resets, and I get back on it. But so you're catching me. I got a doozy today. I had bad sleep last night, and my first day without coffee. So I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm capable of saying anything during this podcast or this live stream. I am a little bit out of it. Just a reminder for those of you who are watching, I can see the software I'm using. I can see how many people are watching, but I don't know who you are unless you comment. So please like, comment, and share this video. Just comment and say hi. Give me a hand wave emoji. Say what's up so I can see your name, publicly acknowledge you. Thank you for being here. The audience interaction in this live stream is crucial. It really helps keep the conversation going, and I've gotten some great questions from the audience that has spurred some wonderful discussion with me and my guests in the past. So it's really crucial. Please comment to your heart's content. Either comment or ask a question. Either way, I'll get to it at some point. And if you could do me a favor, just share this video to your page or send it to someone who you think might find this interview beneficial. Love seeing new faces every week. It's been really helping to inspire me and motivate me to keep going with this series. So yes, like, comment, share. Thank you very much. Is everyone feeling this kind of existential anxiety that I'm feeling a little bit in the air? Just on a day-to-day basis. Like, I consider myself lucky. I have my wife with me. We're having a wonderful time together. We're getting along so well. We're bonding even better than we have before. We go on walks every day. We Zoom with friends almost every night. We have TV shows we're catching up on. Everything is really lovely, but I will catch myself in these moments of joy just noticing this low-grade anxiety in the background. And it's because I don't know if I'm going to play music again until 2021 and be paid for it, like live with an orchestra. When that does happen, I'm hopeful it will happen. Everyone knows it's going to happen. When that does happen, that is going to be such an amazing experience, but I don't know when it's going to happen. And it's scary, and I have anxiety about it that I deal with. And that is why I have my guest on today. We are seeing some of the major orchestras who 6 months ago we thought it would be unimaginable for them to be struggling financially, yet here we are. And military jobs are proving to be the only really secure jobs right now for musicians, and maybe into the future. So my guest today, a very good friend of mine from our days at Carnegie Mellon back in the mid to late aughts. We went to Paris together for an international snare drum competition, which he ended up winning. He is a wonderful performer, a snare drum savant, instrument maker, lawn mower, fire pit builder, and a percussionist in the United States Naval Academy Band. It is my pleasure to bring you my very good friend, Brandon Schantz. Brandon, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey Eddie, how are you? Man,
I'm doing well.
I don't know if I can live up to that intro. I've been watching some of your stuff and like your intros are intimidating. I hope I can
Oh,
live up
dude, it's there
to
to
it.
build you up, man. I'm so happy to have you
These
here.
days mostly lawnmower though, I guess.
When
Spring
you
has sprung. Spring
so
has sprung here in Maryland. We're
I
getting a lot
know.
of rain, a lot of sun, so I'm out on that tractor a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you have a really large piece of land. Like you could put a little
We
golf course on that thing.
Yeah, I could probably put a green. My dad has said the same thing. I could probably put a little par three on there.
You
We're
should,
just on a
man.
little over 2 acres. It's really great.
That's awesome.
We've been here like 13 months and we love it. So
And you even have your own
one of
bar I
one of
see
the
in the
little bit of
background
space.
there.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the spirit of your Friday happy hour. So
Nice.
even though it's eight, it's already like by the time we're done this, it'll be my bedtime. But I figured we could do it in the bar tonight. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I think the question on everyone's mind, obviously, is when you're at the Naval Academy practicing on your little drum, how many UFOs have you seen?
I can't talk to you about that. It's classified.
Nice. I figured as much. Thought I'd try and get out of you.
Yeah.
So you sent after you watched last week's interview that I did, you texted me and you told me there was such a disconnect between military auditions and orchestra auditions, especially for regional orchestras, where 13 people showed up to the Naval Academy Band audition, which is a very secure job, good pay. We all know that the military has wonderful benefits, and then Canton Symphony, which if you play every concert, you might make 12 grand in a year, had 70 people there. So it seems. So I want to get into that. I think the whole discussion is going to be around why aren't people auditioning for military bands? What's keeping them? Or is it are people afraid of it? Are people not aware of it? Or are just people just kind of stuck in like, I want to be in an orchestra? So I guess initially when you said that they make like in a band typically $62,000 to $66,000 a year, and that you said it's actually kind of more than that. So if you could go into what that more is and what the benefits are, that'd be great. I guess we'll start with that.
Yeah, sure. The disconnect, I guess, in the audition is not necessarily a disconnect in like the playing part of the audition. But yeah, we can get into maybe. I think it's all those things you touched on, specifically with regard to our pay. So I'll speak specifically to like a premier military band because there's different types. So you have the premier band. I think there's 10 premier bands in the military, 10 or 11, and then there are a ton of field bands and fleet bands across the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy. Speaking specifically to the premier bands, your pay is broken down into a couple different categories. So you have your base pay, which is based on your rank. Your rank as an enlisted member of a premier band is going to range, you have from E1 to E9. In a premier band, you go basic training, unless you're in the Coast Guard band or Marine band, President's Own, they don't go to like a specific basic training period. Once you graduate from that basic training, recruit training command in the Navy, you are promoted to the E6 rank. So you get a base pay of, I think as of this past year, it's somewhere around like $2,600 a month is your base pay. So that's your taxable income as a member of a premier band in military. That equates to about 30 grand a year is your taxable income. So when you see an audition posting, it says, all the audition postings say something around 63 to 67,000 or 62 to 68, whatever it might be. The reason there's that variation is based on a couple different things. Your base pay is going to be constant, but the other part of that check is you have what are called allowances, and those are your basic housing allowance, which is your BAH, your basic allowance for subsistence, which is essentially like a food allowance, which is your BAS, and then you get like a uniform allowance, which is like once a year, so it don't really count that as part of your whole pay. Well, your BAH can go up if you have dependents. So if you have a spouse and children, your BAH is a little bit higher. Your BAH also adjusts based on where you live. So if you live in, like, let's say the Washington D.C. area where cost of living is higher, your BAH is going to be a little bit higher. So what that amount is, and this is all, like, you can look all these charts up on any website, you can Google these numbers, but that is an allowance is non-taxable income. So the BAH for my duty station, which is in Annapolis, is about, I think it's about like $2,700 or $2,800. So it's even slightly more than your base pay. So more than half of your paycheck is non-taxable income. So when you count as like your net income at the end of the year as that between 62 and 68,000, when I told you it's like, oh, it's kind of more, that's because you have a big chunk that's non-taxed. So if you take that, let's say you go out and get a job that the salary is touted as being $65,000 a year, well, that's before taxes.
Right.
But when they announce that in a military band, premier band posting, that's what you're bringing home at the end of the year, like after your taxes.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's kind of more. So that's something to take into account, obviously, like in your life circumstance when you're auditioning, and you always got to be thinking about that stuff. But that's how the pay breaks down in the military music world.
Okay. So a lot of it is untaxed, and so when they're advertising, it's kind of the net. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can think of it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And I know just kind of peripherally that military benefits are really good. Can you go into specifics about that, what you get on top of pay?
Yeah, so I kind of consider like the fact that you do get that large chunk of money as like a non-taxable income as an allowance as one of the benefits. For me, being appointed to the job that I have, one of the biggest reliefs for me was the health care, and that's a major benefit as an active duty member of the military. Is you get the active duty benefits. So, that essentially means you don't see any co-pays. You don't get hospital bills. You don't, there's a set out schedule for you to get your like preventative maintenance care, so to speak, like your inoculations, your immunizations, your hearing tests and your vision tests and all these things, your dental appointments. You don't see any bills for that.
Right.
So that's all taken care of, and that's huge. And the same goes if you have children or you're married. Your children and your spouse also gets those benefits. So in addition to just like having a stable income as a working musician, you can kind of rest easy at night knowing that, the care is going to be there if you need it. And actually 2 summers ago, I went so long after graduate school, and after my 1 year with the PSO, going with just your bare bones, like catastrophic level health insurance for as cheap as I could find it. And just luckily, I really never got sick. I had to, maybe I had to go to urgent care a couple times. I really lucked out. And like my first year in the band, I spent about 5 days in the hospital with viral meningitis.
Oh.
And it was nasty. It was like as sick as I've ever been. It was over our summer block leave period. And, not to get into that, but just saying like something like that happened. Had that happened 2 years before, even I would have been out my entire deductible, which was like $7,000 at that point, so it's just like, that's a huge benefit. So that's one, you get the benefit of like being able to tap into what companies like USAA and Navy Federal, those things have to offer. Lauren and I just bought a house using the VA loan.
Right.
That was huge because living where we do, putting a down payment on a house is, you got to spend almost 10 years working to just save up that down payment. But using the VA loan benefits, that's
it's
also
only
huge.
3.5%, right? You only have to put 3.5% down, something like that.
With the VA loan, you don't have to put anything down.
Oh.
So there,
that is huge.
Yeah, there's what's called a VA
benefit.
There's a VA funding fee that drastically decreases if you put like 5% down or 10% down. But obviously you can also look those things up. But yeah, so that's also a big benefit. And then on the last tier of that is like what I think is kind of more just like icing on the cake is getting things like a lot of stores and companies have military appreciation benefits where it's like 10, one of my favorites is that 10% Home Depot discount, you get some different places offer different discounts. So there's so many of those things rolling around. So all those little things, and there's countless number of them are just icing on the cake. But yeah, like healthcare, VA loans, in USAA has been a great company to work with. Those are just like some of the benefits you get of joining the military.
Awesome. So it's kind of like in a civilian orchestra or as a civilian musician, you'd have to be making, it seems like almost twice that much or a good chunk more to actually pay out of pocket for the services that you're getting just by being in the military. Right.
And, and there's like I think that's a true statement. Like it might not be twice, it might not be double, but when you add it all up,
it's a lot of money. Especially saving up, trying to save up for a 20% down payment on a home versus no down payment and getting a home. That is massive. That is tens of thousands of dollars.
If you live in a place, you're out in LA, housing costs are astronomical. San Francisco, Chicago, New York, even here in like the DC area.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to roll your eyes. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to afford this? And then like all of a sudden you get to use a benefit like that. And it makes it possible for you to have, a home that you can have all your drums in to practice in and not piss off neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Real quick, for some reason, the comments aren't working on my computer, but I see them on my phone. So we got Roman Cisneros. What's up, dude? Roman, what's up? Good to see you. Anna Morgan, my wife. Hello. Susan Morgan.
Hey, Diana.
My mother-in-law. Hi. All Canadian right. On board, she says.
Nice.
Matthew Mantaruk. Do you know
Matthew? Yeah, that's one of my colleagues. He's also a percussionist in the band.
Oh, nice. Welcome, Matthew. He just says
he's
woo-hoo.
The best. I told him I would give him a shout out. He's the best colleague one could ever ask for.
Awesome. There you go, Matt. Is it Matt or Matthew? Does he care?
Senior chief.
Oh, senior chief. Nice. Zach Bridges is watching. Zach, what's up? Maurice Bell, good to see you. Ethan Lynn Schwartz, what's up? Erica Peel. Hello, Erica Peel. Piccolo player for the Philadelphia Orchestra. Oh, our good friend, awesome. Ariel Zavieso in the house. What's up, Ariel?
Ariel, hermano.
Zach Bridges, Michael Danger Bassick. You got Michael Danger, but yeah, I know we got you, Michael. Get your troll questions out of the way and then ask some real ones. But everyone, if anyone has any questions for Brandon, start typing away or comments or anything like that.
Awesome. I'm glad I've got some listeners. That's cool.
I'll try and track it on my phone because I don't understand why it's not showing up on my computer. Anyway, so we've gone through the pay and benefits. I guess we can speculate as to why so few people show up to these auditions, or at least in percussion. I don't know what it's like for other instruments, but
and
the whole 1370 thing is crazy.
Being in the band now it'll be 3 years in August, and actually it'll be 3 years in the Navy on May 31st is when I shipped out to boot camp. I've been in the band since August 2017. Mm-hmm. I've gotten the opportunity to work and be involved in helping just do being a runner or a proctor for some different auditions, and it really only seems to be, it might be across the board. Because I also I don't know how many trombone players or French horn players or saxophone players, not saxophone, but any of the trumpet players show up to orchestra auditions. I can only speak to that on the percussion side of things. But on the percussion side of things, I've taken 10 I thought about this. I took 10 premier band military auditions,
That's a lot.
and not one of them had. I can't say one of them had more than 20 people at it.
Wow.
And I've been to orchestra auditions where like the pay is the same,
Or way less,
or less, or comparable. Where there are literally, like, if it's a cattle call audition, there's 100 people there.
Yeah.
And I think speaking specifically to percussion, I have a couple ideas of why that might be. And one of them is because of the nature of the job of being in like a military band. A lot of times you're asked to demonstrate proficiency in rudimental snare drumming and traditional grip.
Okay.
And I think the vast majority of like conservatory trained, collegiately trained musicians that are going for like orchestra gigs and military, those kind of jobs, play match grip, and they're really uncomfortable playing traditional. I think that's one reason. And to me, it seems like a small thing, but
that seems like a big reason. It's because I know you've always been traditional, but match
that's
grip,
why it
and
seems
traditional
like
is hard if you don't know it.
Don't get me wrong. I could not go and switch to play match grip. Like I just couldn't do it. Like in a concert setting, I've always played traditional. So, I'm not saying it's not right. It's not wrong. I think that's just one reason that happens. Another reason, talking about the playing aspect of things, is also a lot of the military bands require pretty there's a lot of emphasis on drum set playing in those auditions as well. One of the reasons for that is especially if you're in a type of band like I'm in, where you have brass ensembles, you have chamber groups, you have jazz you have jazz combos, you have large jazz group, small jazz group, blues band, larger concert units, ceremonial. You got to play everything. Keep in mind, in the military bands, you can't hire a sub.
Right.
Somebody goes down. If our main jazz drummer goes down, one of us has to go in and fill in. So you have to. So drum set is also a big thing. I mean, my experience in school is some of the students in our studio just didn't play drum set.
Yeah.
So if you don't have proficiency in that, well, we're taking a big risk there, because we can't hire a drum set guy. You just can't do it. They can't be vetted. Just in the military capacity, you can't just be like, hey, you're honorary petty officer today. You can't do it. So
right.
Okay. So those are playing wise, traditional grip and drum set.
Okay, I have some comments about that. Just want to Christopher Still, what's up, Chris? Good to see you, man. Shane Nichols is watching. You know Shane Nichols? He's in the old guard.
Oh, yeah, that's where I know that name. I don't know if we've ever met in person, but yeah, I absolutely know the name, so welcome.
Nice.
Thanks for
Shane, good to
watching.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Brian Keith Etheridge, he's going to watch this in full later. I'm glad you showed up, Brian. It was great talking to you few weeks
the one
ago.
I watched,
the comedian,
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Diana says, you're a traditionalist. Okay. Yeah. Zach Bridges, yep. I don't know what he's saying yep to, but he agreed with something he said. Matt Howard joined. What's up, Matt?
Wow, all right.
Yo, we got some heavy hitters in the room here. Michael Danger Bassick. I will get to your question in a minute. I just want to make a comment on what Brandon was just saying. I almost called you Boone there. For those of you
that's all right.
at Carnegie Mellon, Brandon's nickname,
memories.
Brandon's nickname was Boone. It was always Boone. It was just given to him when he first got there. So it is so awkward for me to call him Brandon, but I'm gonna, in continuity, I'm gonna keep calling him Brandon. So yeah, traditional grip drum set. I think historically, you have orchestral percussionists, classically trained, didn't play, not a lot of them played traditional grip, and a lot of them, like myself, didn't really play a lot of drum set. But now, I think a lot of that stuff is not traditional grip, but I think drum set is being emphasized. I know at USC, drum set is required now when you're getting your undergrad, or I think for any level there, graduate, undergrad or graduate, they take a drum set class with Peter Erskine, and they're taking private lessons with people. So I think people are getting more and more proficient at drum set, so that's a good thing. And then in terms of traditional grip, I don't know, take a summer and play traditional grip. And I think you can get good enough. If you already have good snare drum chops, you can get good enough at traditional grip to probably handle an audition. I think. I mean, what do they have you play at these auditions?
You absolutely can. I'll actually give, if my colleague Matt Manturk is still on, I'll give him a shout out. So when I got to the band, they were transitioning from some old Cooperman drums they had to the sling rope drums that we use now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys, there was just a big transition of players. And when those drums came in, it was all of our first time marching with a rope drum, traditional grip. And Matt is primarily a match grip player, like in a concert setting. But, like you said, you spend enough time doing it, like you'll be able to do it. So is that a sole reason to not take a service band or military band audition? I personally don't think so.
I don't think so either. But I think it's bigger in people's minds than it actually is. And
yeah, because that's a smaller facet of the audition. Unless, of course, you are auditioning for the old guard. Then like, no, if you don't have chops, like, I sent a tape in for the old guard and didn't get invited, and that's not, that just
you shred on Sarah. I know
those guys are just so freaking
so
good.
They're so good.
Like those guys are unbelievable. So, but in my type of band, that's a big part of what we do. But, it's not something that should deter you from auditioning.
Yeah. Also, with all the online resources, like you have, what's his name, Bill Bachman snare drum program. Like he has all his exercise for traditional grip too. You can look up a million YouTube videos and just like sit there while you're eating breakfast with a pad and work on your left hand. Get that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'll ask you. Let's flip the screen. Okay. I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you taken it? Because I couldn't remember if you had or not. Like while we were in school together, have you ever taken a military band audition?
No, I have not. For those reasons. But I mean, that this is.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What
15 years ago?
Right.
Because I didn't play drum set, and I was too afraid to play traditional grip. Also, I was so narrowly focused, which I think is probably another thing. I was so narrowly focused on an orchestra job that's all I was thinking about. And I thought, and I didn't, I was like not even thinking about military. I was like, no, military is not at all what I want to do. So I mean, that was it for me 15 years ago. But a lot of it, I think back to myself back then, and I think a lot of my decisions were fear-based decisions. So it was fear of trying to learn drum set and fear of switching to traditional grip.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty common. I would like to know. I would like to do like a blanket study too, because I think also some of the reason, and this is why I kind of wanted to have like for everybody watching, like I think it was more me saying, "Hey Eddie, I want to be on your Facebook Live thing," not him asking me. He didn't seek me out. I was like,
"On your show." But you brought it up, and then I was like, "Oh, that's actually a very good idea." So
I feel so passionate about my job and just fell in love with it, which is I took 34 auditions before winning my job, and 10 of them, so almost a third of them were for service bands. And that wasn't because I necessarily had I didn't make a conscious decision like I want to be in the military. I didn't really, my grandfather was in the Army. No real immediate family traditions in the military, but just envisioning myself in the uniform, the functionality of what we do, and just rudimental snare drum I've always loved. Drum set, that's what I started on. Yeah. It's almost like going back to my roots, and just we do concert band. I played, I was featured as xylophone soloist last summer, and we do all the concert stuff, and it's great, but I just always envisioned myself in a military band. Like once I started taking the auditions, I do wonder how much, aside from the playing side of things, and technical things that might deter somebody from joining, I wonder how much of it is like the entrance process of actually just joining the military. Because frankly, it's an intimidating, lengthy, like, excuse my French, it's kind of a bitch of a process.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to get let's plant a flag in that because I want to get to that. But there's some relevant questions to what we're talking about before we get into the process of getting into the military. So Mike Bassick, can you describe your audition and how it was different from an orchestra audition? What do you think set you apart on Seymour? Oh my gosh, I'm so annoyed with this technology. What do you think set you apart in your audition? So I guess we went over a little bit, but what were the big differences between? Because for those of you who don't know, Brandon had a year-long contract with Pittsburgh Symphony back in the day and was a sub with them for many years, and now he's in the military band. So he has experience in both worlds. In your mind, what is the main differences between the two in the process?
Yeah, that's great because the main difference is, I think I might have alluded to it before, but the differences really aren't in like the repertoire. There are some differences in the repertoire because you're going to play like a lot of like march trios on bells maybe instead of like Sorcerer's Apprentice. You're going to play maybe more snare drum. Like we just talked about, you're going to play some drum set. Mm-hmm. There are orchestra auditions like that. I mean, I remember taking an audition for Detroit Symphony where there was like a lot of drum set.
Mm-hmm. More and more
the
nowadays.
Virginia Symphony, a lot of drum set. Yeah, and that's great. I think everybody should do it and be proficient at drum set playing as a percussionist. The differences are really mental because you show up to a military audition and the first thing you got to do, if you're traveling yourself, if they're not paying for you to travel or anything like that, mm-hmm. you show up to a military base. You don't have access to a military base as a civilian. Mm-hmm. So you have to get on like a special list, and then you might not be able to park on base, and then you got to be vetted to get on. And there's just like a lot more in the process of just getting to the building. Then once you get there, if you don't have like let's say any type of military experience, whether it be your family, like your brother's in the military, you spend some time around those type of settings, which I never did. It can be pretty intimidating where everybody you communicate with is in a uniform, mm-hmm. and you're not sure whether to call them like a sir or like call them by name, or it's just a weird situation that you walk into when everybody's in uniform. You can't really get to the facility without being questioned. And what do you have in your bag? Everything's getting searched. It's like all of a sudden you're just very nervous, mm-hmm. And that doesn't help when you're about to go be even more nervous at an audition. Yeah. However, once you get in there, like you quickly start to realize everybody's got your kind of same background. Mm-hmm. These people are musicians. They're the same type of people that when you go to like a symphony audition, or if you're auditioning for a Broadway show or the Met or something, it's the same. These are musicians running an audition. They just happen to take their skills to the military at some point in their career. So after a while, you don't let that bother you. Mm-hmm. So that's like one of the main differences. Another difference is, in my experience, is there is if you make it far enough in the finals, and this happened to me, I think 4 times, make the finals, either, final 2, final 3, there is a pretty lengthy interview process, because part of, let's say you're appointed to a military band job, that's essentially like instant tenure, if you behave well, right? Because there's no tenure period. Your tenure period is you're in, so, and you're in for an enlistment. So they're stuck with you for 4 years. So if they don't interview, that's a major part of it. You don't always get that, you in a symphony, you get like a 1-year tenure, like trial period. Well, there's not, you don't get that probationary period. So there's like a couple of the differences as far as like the playing, and like I said, the repertoire. Like I played Cowboys Overture, and I played a couple Bach solos, and I played De La Cluse on snare drum, and I don't remember like the exact list, but it was a lot of the same rep. I played familiar rep on timpani and some etudes and sight reading. Oh, this is another thing. So this was something that bit me in the butt at both of my Army Field Band auditions, which I was in the finals for. It was sight reading. I think because of the nature of the job, you play in so many, you can end up playing in so many different settings for so many different types of things in a short amount of time, that sight reading is pretty key. So that's one thing I will say. Like, I've had to sight read exponentially more at the service band jobs than auditions than I have at anything else. And that's just something I've never been strong at. And our teacher, Paul Evans, like, he was always on my case about that. I never worked hard enough at it. And I didn't work hard enough at it because I wasn't good at it. So I got really frustrated so quickly, and it was really hard to practice that. So, I'm better now than I was, but, for whatever reason, I think percussionists just like aren't as good at sight reading. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's also showing up in orchestral auditions a lot now. And it's a big skill for a busy when you have a busy orchestra like the LA Phil. I mean, sight reading is important because you have to learn stuff really quickly. They go through so much rep, and a lot of it's new rep. They're getting all these commissions, and it's a vital skill to survive in an orchestra like that. And I'm guessing with the kind of schedule you have, it's the same thing. It's just you're going through so much volume. You just have to be able to do it.
There's a lot of music, and the good thing is like sometimes it's a situation where it's a ton of music, but if you spend enough time in the group, you eventually you're going to play it all. Then it starts to become recall. It's like a recall sight reading. It's like getting a xylophone rag back in your hands that you practiced. And just to go back, I just remembered the last part of that question was like what set me apart, and not my own opinion. I asked, my colleagues when I got to the band, we talked about the audition and things like that, for comments. And I think it was it was me and one other person. That was it. The last round was playing with our superintendent's jazz combo. And the set apart factor for me from what they told me was, one, striking good looks. Not true. But it was drum. It was just my comfort on a drum set.
Yeah.
Because that was something that was going to be like, that can end up being a big deal if you have somebody that, like I said before, you can't have a sub. So I think it was just all around. I did have a good audition, and then at the end of the day, the last round was just there was just a large difference in the, like I said, just like the comfort that the rest of the band had with me behind the drum set, maybe as opposed to the other person. So
nice, yeah, you got to have that feel. Real quick, Matt Howard, what up, dudes? What up, Matt? Oh, your mom, Ann Schantz, is watching.
Oh, hi, Mom. I'm famous.
Yeah. And she says, "Oh, Lucille's son, Lulu. Hi, Lulu, all the way from I think she's in Hong Kong, I want to say."
Oh, wow.
Nina's here. Loren's right.
Hey, Nina.
Right. Hey, Nina. What's up? Zach Bridges.
I know Nina just
Steve
said, "Hi, boo."
Probably like very loud in her house. Let's see. I'm just looking at Zach Bridges' question really quick. Yes, Zach, I was actually going to ask this question just now when he was talking about it. So, Zach Bridges, what about basic training and seeing enlistment contracts as restrictive as additional limiting assumptions for why people don't take auditions? Thoughts? So, yeah, so you take a military band audition. One element is basic training, which we'll get into, but the other element is that you're locked in for 4 years, right? And say your goal is like, okay, military's cool, would be a great experience. I'll serve my country in some way, but I really want to be in the LA Phil or Pittsburgh Symphony or San Francisco, and I think a job's going to open up in like 3 years. You're stuck, right? So what would you say to someone in that situation?
You are and you aren't. I mean, you do sign an enlistment contract, but like, for example, I know of people that have not, they're not but halfway through their first enlistment and are taking auditions. So there are instances where it kind of depends on the state of your band or your section, or this is all, it's really touch and go. But it's not impossible. I'll say this. It's not impossible to join a military band, go through that process, and then just like, it's not impossible then to go take an audition, because through various steps of the chain of command, you can be released and to go take that other job. Mm-hmm. That's not like that. That's to each their own type of thing. Like each command is different, but I'll just say that it's not impossible to do.
Okay. Just gotta go through the red tape.
Yeah, exactly. There are certain processes that you have to do. My band is very, understanding when it comes to, if somebody feels that way, like that, this maybe isn't for them. They want to take auditions, want to go do freelance gigs. Our number one duty is to the United States Naval Academy, but like I said before, as a musician, everybody's pretty understanding. So, like I said, that's not impossible. So that also is understandably maybe something that can be a deterrent. But, I will say that, it shouldn't be, because if you're willing to go through the process that, I'll let you gear the conversation when you want to like the boot camp side of things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as far as like enlistment contracts, being locked in, not allowed to leave your owned, or like however you think, it's like that's not really true. So that's something to consider.
Okay. Right, well, that's good. That's good info, because my understanding was that you were just like locked in. You were not going to get out. So that's good to know that
Sure.
that is possible. Who else we got? We got Steve Annan, my good friend Steve from Second City. Good to see you. Mike Deutsch.
You're
Mike
comedy
Deutsch.
improv.
Yeah. Mike Deutsch, Ron Wagner from my days at Cirque. What's up, Ron? Brett McClellan. Right. Do you know Brett McClellan? Is he a friend of yours?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome, not, Brett.
Now that I said that. Hey, Brett.
What's up, Brett? Nina says, hey, y'all, in her classic voice. Amanda Duncan, what's up? David Riccobono, what's up, David? Thanks for tuning in. Just real quick, Diana Morgan, my wife, if you're watching this, please let our cat into the room, because he is meowing like crazy right now. Okay, so Diana has a question. Tell us more about that solo opportunity you mentioned. Do you get many of those? Did you mention solo opportunities?
Oh, yeah. I was saying, because I was talking about just like drum set and rudimental snare drum and like emphasizing that. But like I said, last summer, I was given the opportunity to like be a soloist in the band. So I played the golden age of the xylophone. We had a couple concerts, a little ragtime medley with the band. That I got to play like a number of times. Mm-hmm. Those opportunities, like solo opportunities, in my situation happen, with the full band, maybe not regularly, but we have a lot of opportunity as far as like chamber groups. A lot of these premier bands, like within the under the umbrella of like the Navy band. That's not just one band. Like they have a concert band, they have ceremonial units, they have the country current bluegrass band, they have the sea chanters, they have the cruisers, there's all these different bands. Within our band, we have we have a brass ensemble, we have a blues band, we have a jazz combo. We put together a large ceremonial unit. We're a 34-piece band. It's very small, and luckily starting to grow. So the solo opportunities are, if you're playing in like our percussion ensemble, that we put out like one or two videos a year, those can be solo opportunities. Mm-hmm. So they kind of happen if you want them to happen, in a sense. I mean, it's very collaborative as far as, we have different teams and committees that come up with ideas and these, of what to put on programs and things. And if you really are practicing something, you say, hey, go to, obviously operating within this military like chain of command, go to the next person up and say, I'm really interested in playing this. Can you bring it up to somebody? Let's see what we can do. Mm-hmm. What's a proper setting to put that in? So yeah, it can be like maybe not necessarily a frequent thing, but it certainly happens. And I was like fortunate enough to do it. It was really fun. And I, hopefully do it again.
Awesome. That's cool. I didn't know that existed either. So that's great. Leo Soto's watching. What's up, Leo?
Oh, Leo. Hey, Leo.
I'm enjoying your videos, Leo. You're killing it when you're doing like the clave on the feet and playing rudimental stuff on snare drum. That's awesome, man. Also, beautiful new timpani. What else? We got to get into boot camp, obviously. So we think about, let's just take a conglomerate. Let's just take the average percussionist going for auditions. A lot of them, I don't want to say any names, and I hope I don't offend anybody. A lot of percussionists just aren't in great physical shape, or maybe would need to lose a lot of weight to get into boot camp. So
yeah, I'm one of them.
Oh, okay. So perfect. So what do you say to someone who's like, yeah, that sounds interesting, but I don't think I have what it takes to get through boot camp.
I will say you've got what it takes to get through boot camp. Now, again, I'll address this question as going through Navy boot camp because their Army is different. Like I said, for a couple premier bands, the Coast Guard band, President's Own Marine Band, you don't have to go through boot camp. Mm-hmm. There's probably some sort of, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong if they're on here watching, there's probably some sort of like customs and courtesies training type of thing, like as far as military protocol goes, but as far as basic like combat training, you don't have to go through those in those groups. Mm-hmm. So I'll give it like a quick rundown of like the entrance processing, because that's the part that's kind of intimidating.
Okay.
You hear about the audition the same way you would hear about a symphony: musical chairs, Facebook, word of mouth, John Tafoya website, like however you hear about them, union paper. Send your stuff in, get accepted, take the audition. Let's say you win the audition. Here was my process. First thing I did, breathe a big sigh of relief, mm-hmm. go into the administration office where one of the people on the panel got, this was like the same, this was right after like my second interview, essentially, called a recruiter to say, hey, we've selected this person for entrance in the Naval Academy Band, Premier Band, Permanent Duty Station. We need to get him a date to go to MEPS. MEPS is Military Entrance Processing Station. So that's where they determine if you are fully physically, mentally, in every which way fit to join the military. Because in addition to just being musically qualified, you have to be qualified based on your health, based on your an extensive physical, vision, ears, your range of motion test. You go in a room in your underwear with 15 other guys, and a doctor looks to see if you can move, you don't have any bone problems, mm-hmm. arthritis, skin issues. If you have anything like that, you got to go get it checked out by the doctor, have to maybe get a waiver or something like that. So there's extensive physical examinations and things like that. That's MEPS. The other part of MEPS is taking a written test called the ASVAB, the ASVAB. What does that mean? Aptitude, something, vocabulary,
I had to take
and
that
battery
in high
test.
Don't they like have high school kids take that?
They administer the ASVAB in high school too, just to kind of get it out of the way in case anybody wants to join the military.
Yeah, I got
it's
a
like
lot
a
of calls
recruiting
after that.
tool they use. Yeah, so you also have to take the ASVAB. It's similar to the SATs, it's just a battery, vocabulary, mathematics, all that stuff. I actually sat down, I YouTubed long division before I did.
Nice. That's good.
I couldn't remember.
Good. Yeah, I don't remember.
So
that.
Anyway, you take that, and then okay, so then you pass MEPS, you're cleared, good. Then you go back to your recruiter. There's a couple meetings, and then from that time, they try to get you a ship out date. That's the date that you're going to go back and do MEPS again. And then, except that time at the end of MEPS, you raise your right hand, you swear in, you get on a bus, and you go to boot camp. So by the time I took the audition to when I shipped out, I took my audition on January 24th, 2017. Mm-hmm. I shipped out to boot camp on May 31st of the same year. So it was quite some time in between there.
Yeah.
Because the process takes a while.
Wow. Okay. And say, what if you won another audition in that time? Are you in, the minute you win the job, are you enlisted, or in that kind of
that's a great,
can you get out?
That's a great question. from the time you can get out up until you up until you get on that bus to ship out, up until you swear in, you don't have to go. That is at the point where you just enlisted, and now you're off to boot camp.
Okay.
So if you win the job, and like, I'm not going to get too deep in that because I don't know the exact answer. I don't want to say wrong information, but that is the time that you swear in, and the first time you go to MEPS, you're getting medically cleared. You don't sign any paperwork. You don't sign any contract. When you go back and it's your ship out date, that is when you sign that contract, and that's when you swear in, and that's when you get on the bus and go. So that's a process from like audition to going. And then boot camp, like we could spend like a whole other episode on just the antics.
We're running low on time, but yeah, like if you can tie it into like 5 or 7 minutes, I would love to hear the physical boot camp experience for the Navy.
I'll say this, okay, yeah. So, as training musicians in like a conservatory setting, in a collegiate setting, you're training to be a working musician in our field. You already have like the right mindset and the mental capacity to go through boot camp. Because no RDC, no drill instructor, no chief or petty officer at boot camp is going to like be more hard on you than you've already been as like a training musician, having lost 20 auditions, self-deprecating, just you're jaded already. You know what I mean? Like you can handle the mental aspect. As far as the physical side of things, what I started doing, like because there was that big time before I shipped out, I wanted to like not be unprepared to go do that. And it's public knowledge what like the physical requirements are for your age bracket. I went into boot camp as a 31-year-old. You know, my rack mate was 17. There were guys in there that were, you know,
just fresh out of high school,
coming out of high school, that were like cross country stars and things like that. But you know, I worked at it. I wasn't in shape. I never worked. You know, I didn't work out in college. I made fun of James and Jack for working. I sat on the couch and laughed at them while they're doing insanity. You know, because I was like, what you guys doing? You know, but then I just started working at it. I started running a little bit and doing push-ups and core work and stuff like that. And I was fine. I passed all my physical tests. All those, you take 3, like physical tests. You take a bunch of, I'm speaking specifically like Navy boot camp. You take 3 PRTs. These are your physical readiness tests. For my age bracket, here's what I had to do to pass. And again, this is all, you can look this stuff up. Age 30 to 34, you have to be able to run 1.5 miles in under 13 and a half minutes.
Okay.
You have to be able to do in 2 minutes, do at least 41 push-ups, like without resting, and then within 2 minutes be able to do at least 51 sit-ups without resting. So that's not, even if you're super out of shape, that's something you can work up to. And frankly, the whole point of boot camp is to take, you know, the way I viewed the exercise regimen at boot camp was to get like an out of shape person relatively just in shape, basically trained, you know. So I took the opportunity at boot camp. For me, it was to eat really healthy and really like push hard with all the physical stuff. I lost 18 pounds at boot camp, felt great. You know, it's like you get paid when you're at boot camp too, because you're in the military at that point. So, you know, you're getting paid to work out, you know. Now, mentally, boot camp's tough because you're leaving your family. especially for me, it was tough because like I found myself, so there were other people in my division at boot camp that were also musicians. I actually went to boot camp with two musicians that I currently work with that were also going to the Naval Academy.
Nice.
So that's kind of fun to have gone through that with them. There were some older people, there were some people with kids. You find people, you start getting along as a 31-year-old getting along with 19-year-old kids, just kind of funny, and you just survive, Yeah. You figure it out. It's like 10 weeks. And like I said, especially, you and I can attest, like some of my lessons were harder than some days at boot camp. Like the mental toughness is already there if you're a practicing musician.
Right.
Yeah. And if all you have to do
went
is
to CMU and study with Tim Adams.
Yeah. And if all you have to do is, maybe get yourself in shape a little bit, well, that's good for you. And like, then, so every musician you talk to, if you say, oh, I'm just nervous if I can't get through boot camp, I think more times than not, you'll hear the answer, listen, if I can do it, you can do it.
Right.
And that I think that's certainly true. You can attest to that as far as like the physical side of things.
Yeah.
And like the endurance of running and things like that. So
yeah, I did not know you to run when I knew you back at CMU. So. Yep.
First, so this is kind of a funny story. Real quick.
Okay.
I started running. I said, okay, I got to start running. I got to start somewhere. I'm going to try to go a mile. Used to be able, run a mile, no problem. Let's start with a mile. At that point, I hadn't run in a long time. Yeah. So it was a hot day. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I go out. I think I got like a few blocks around my neighborhood. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. Started to feel super dizzy. I stopped. I threw up on the sidewalk, and then I walked home.
and that was
and here I am. That was my intro to training for boot camp.
Wow, that's hilarious.
And now I'm in like, it got me in like it got me in good shape. It made me want to, eat healthy and be fit and like do, it's just it's helped me a lot. It's really like turned me around as far as like just a health and caring for myself standpoint. It really did. I mean, because you're forced to do it, and then you just get used to that. So
nice. And so, and there is an age limit. Like, so I just turned 37. I could not go audition for a military band, or are there?
You can for the Navy. The Navy recently, as in the last like 3 or 4 years, their age limit now is 39. So come on out, Eddie.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? After all this is over, who knows?
We are waiting for you.
Real quick, we got Andres Pichardo. What's up, Andres? Very good friend of mine. Chris still says, I'm homeschooling my kids' cello lesson. I wish I had combat training. Nice. I'm so glad I don't have kids right now. But you're a wonderful father, Chris. Laura is watching. Laura Ruth. Lorelai.
Oh, hey, Laura.
What's up? She says, I know you guys. Yes, you do. Chris Still. Yes, excellent point. I think that was probably about the mental toughness that we already have, the mental toughness going into boot camp.
It was like,
Yeah. Rob Shields. What's up, Rob? Laura, I think responding to your physical tests. Nope. Good thing I'm out of that age bracket now. Yep. Zach Bridges. And BAH if you're married. You mentioned BAH before, right? Or
yeah, so
it is.
It's your basic allowance for housing.
Got it.
So all of that check is consolidated into one. You're not forced to like spend that money on your housing, but it's essentially a way to say like if you fall into money trouble, it's like, hey, listen, we give you money for this. You get a base pay, you get housing pay, you get food pay. So where's your fault? So, but yeah, your BAH goes up. If you're married and have and even up, I think a little more if you have dependents. I don't have children, so I'm not 100%. I'm 90% sure it does go up though. Okay. So yeah, it's higher if you're married, and it's higher if you have children.
Nice.
So yeah.
Your mom says, just for the record, we still can't believe he made it through boot camp. So.
Yeah, they were sick of coming.
So if Brandon could do it, you guys can do it.
Graduations after that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Zach Bridges, Air Force is also 39. Good to know. Rob Slack, nice. What's up, Rob? Rodney Wirtz, what's up? Rodney Inavelli, what's up? We're just about to wrap it up. So I guess in summary, if you are interested in a military band, once this is all over, if you're worried about drum set, learn how to play some drum set, get the basic grooves down. If you're worried about traditional grip, just spend time getting that traditional grip and you'll get it. If you're worried about boot camp, if Brandon can do it, you can do it. So, I hope that assuages all your fears if you had any.
Yeah, and listen, I get a weird, I get a weird kick out of just telling boot camp stories. Anybody's worried about it, give me a call, hit me up on Facebook. We'll talk about it. There's, it's an interesting thing to go through. It's actually a great, it's looking back on it's just like a great experience to have.
Yeah,
you can say you did it. It's an accomplishment, and it's just like it's in the grand scheme. If you have a full career in the military, it ends up being just a blip on the radar.
Right. So that'd actually be really fun to do sometime. To have you and my friend Zach Bridges here come on and just tell boot camp stories. And that'd
be fun.
Well, cool. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk to you. I'm sure people found that really informative, and we'll get together someday and we'll swap stories, and hopefully I'll actually see you in person at some point when this is all over.
Yeah, I hope you come back to DC. That was really fun when you came with LA Phil, when we met up. What was that, a couple years ago? So, but yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been real, this is a good conversation.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being here. Stay on. I'll catch up with you in a sec, okay?
All right.
Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. That is the end of episode 7 with Brandon Schantz, who is a percussionist in the U.S. Navy Academy Band. Hope you found that informative. If any of you were thinking about auditioning for a military band or had fears about it, I hope we assuaged your fears. If you still have fears about it, sorry, Boone, your audio's in there. Hold on a sec. If you're interested in auditioning, do it. If you had any other fears that maybe we didn't get to, go ahead and send Brandon a message or send me a message, and I'll get it to him, and we'll do that. I hope to see you back here next week, Friday, May 8th, 5 p.m. Pacific time. I will be speaking with Bryce Leafman. Bryce is the newly appointed section percussionist and assistant timpanist for the San Francisco Symphony, and we're going to talk about how he came from a very small orchestra in Billings, Montana, and then won one of the most coveted jobs in the world. It's a really inspiring story. It's going to be great for anyone who's out there who's been grinding away auditioning and thinks the deck is stacked against them. You'll definitely want to hear what Bryce has to say about his audition experience. So until then, hope to see you there. Be well, and bye for now.